Unfamiliar word? Oh no! How many times have you come across an unfamiliar word in your book, textbook, or daily life? Believe it or not, this happens to me all the time, even to someone who has her master's degree in reading. And this happens especially when it comes to things that I'm not familiar with, like working on my taxes, or sometimes even trying to figure out how to fix things around the house. Reading fix-it manuals or other types of things I don't normally read, I end up coming across a ton of words that I don't quite know. But stop! I don't need to touch that dictionary. The definition of the word that I don't know sometimes is right there in the text. Most of us don't have a dictionary handy, and even though we have tons of devices that we can use to look up words, there isn't always time. That is why we use context clues, and they're something that is very powerful to us as learners, and not something that should be limited to use in just reading class. This is a life skill. Context clues are words or phrases that are around an unfamiliar word, which can help you understand the meaning of the new word that you are encountering. That's what context clues are. If you learn how to use these clues, you can save yourself a trip to the dictionary, increase your vocabulary, and improve your reading comprehension. Why do we need to use context clues? This does correlate to your academic life in school, and here are two really good reasons. First is vocabulary. Vocabulary knowledge is mandatory to achieve success. Research has proven that students that read 20 minutes a day outside of school come across 1,800,000 words more a year than the student that reads only 1 minute outside of class time. Also, often when we're confronted with an unfamiliar word within its context, there in the page, in the paragraph, in the passage, many times students will end up skipping over it and they'll just continue to read or they'll stop reading altogether. And that doesn't help anyone because then you aren't learning the new vocabulary and you're not learning what it is that you need to learn from what it is that you're supposed to read. There are many different ways to figure out the meanings using context clues. We'll be going through many different guidelines of how to figure out meanings when we're reading. The first is here. Sometimes the sentence that the word is in might offer an example of the word or tell what the word does. So if you encounter an unfamiliar word, context clues or other words around it in the sentence or paragraph can help you figure out its meaning. When we look for the meanings within the sentence sometimes, the explanation is right after the word. Or sometimes it directly follows the unfamiliar word. Take this sentence, for example. The trek or journey became more challenging as we approached the top of the mountain. Right after the unknown word trek is the definition for the word journey. So trek means the same thing as a journey. The definition is right there after the word. It directly follows the unfamiliar word trek. We have another second guideline for using context clues. Pay attention to the punctuation. Many times the definition stands out because of punctuation clues. So authors many times use those punctuation to help you, the reader. Sometimes punctuation clues might include commas, dashes, or parentheses. Those are just a few. These types of clues many times are seen in your content area reading, in social studies and science. So check out this example. In order to keep the dogs inside the yard, we built a parapet, a low wall, or railing. The comma after parapet indicates what parapet means, the low wall or railing. Here are some more to try out. What I'd like you to do is to write these down on your piece of paper on your clipboard and complete what each of the underlined words means by using the context clues to tell us what the underlined word means. So your first one, Mary kept the deed to her mother's house. On your piece of paper, write down the word retained, then write down what you think retained means according to the sentence. On the next line, write down a number 2, and you can write down the word edible, which is underlined in our next sentence. E-D-I-B-L-E. I wonder if that fruit is edible, able to be eaten. Write down what the word edible means. Number 3, the company is going through many transitions, changes. Write down the word transitions and what you think it means. This fourth sentence has a very large word. It's loquacious. L-O-Q-U-A-C-I-O-S. Loquacious. Children are often loquacious, very talkative and active. What do you think loquacious means? Our last sentence uses the word bigamy, B-I-G-A-M-Y. Bigamy, marriage to 2 spouses at the same time, is not legal in the United States. Write down what you think bigamy means. If you need to pause the slideshow at this time, please pause so that you can finish these 5 examples. So on your page, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with each of the underlined words and what you think their meaning is. Sometimes the meaning of your unknown word is provided before the word in the text. So sometimes you'll find the meaning before the word called. So here's our example. The worm ate the middle layer of the peach, which is called the mesocarp. Here our word is mesocarp. Before the word, we see the meaning, middle of the peach. So we sometimes find it after the word, sometimes before the word, and sometimes outlined by punctuation. Context clues are not limited to just a sentence you find the word in. Sometimes it is found in other sentences or paragraphs around it. Here we're going to look at the meaning in the previous sentence. Our example is, everyone at the dinner table cleaned their plates and asked for seconds. As the guests left, they said the dinner was delectable. Here, the meaning of delectable is found in the sentence before. It doesn't come out right and tell us what delectable means, but you'll have to use some of your inferring skills, putting those puzzle pieces of meaning together to figure out what delectable means. If we look at that sentence beforehand, it says, everyone at the dinner table cleaned their plates and asked for seconds. Well, if someone does that, then they probably like the meal. They wouldn't ask for seconds if they thought it was gross. So delectable probably means good tasting. Sometimes the meaning could be in the sentence after. You might find the meaning in the next sentence. So sometimes we have it before the word, after the word, set apart by punctuation in the previous sentence or in the next sentence in the text. So here we have the example that reads, Jake left the waitress a paltry tip. She forgot to give them glasses of water, brought out cold food, and never checked on them, so she deserved a small tip. The paltry explanation can be figured out in the sentences that come after the sentence paltry is used in. Once again, you need to use your inferring skills. So think about it. What might paltry mean? If your waitress forgot to give you glasses of water, brought you cold food, and never checked in on you to see how you were doing, she deserves a small tip. So what kind of tip was paltry? A small tip, something small. Sometimes you can make an educated guess when you come across an unknown word to see if a word that you can think of that might mean the same thing and make sense in the sentence. So that would be called replacing the unfamiliar word with a prediction or a substitution word to see if it fits or makes sense. So here we have the example of gregarious. The party goer was extremely gregarious at the party. He introduced himself to everyone, smiled a lot, and got along very well with the other guests. What words might fit in that sentence to replace gregarious? Think about it. He introduced himself to everyone, he smiled a lot, got along very well with the other guests. What would gregarious mean according to that? Maybe it means nice. Maybe it means talkative. Maybe it means friendly. Partygoer was extremely friendly at the party. That makes sense. So our prediction word, friendly, would work. And that is what gregarious means. Middle school is a time where you learn all tons of prefixes, suffixes, and roots for words. The reason is because once you know the meaning of the word parts, you can apply that knowledge to figure out your words. So by studying the unfamiliar word's prefix, suffix, or root word, and writing the meanings to figure out the meaning of the word. So our example here is the subfloor needed to be replaced because of mold issues from the winter leak. If we break that word apart into sub and floor, think about subway, submarine. Sub means under or below, and the floor is the floor is a floor. So therefore, the subfloor is a floor below the main floor. So knowing what sub means helps us to figure out the rest of that word. So when you come across a word in your book that has the prefix mal in front of it, you know that that word is going to have something to do with being wrong. Or miss, it's going to have something to do with being wrong or ill. Understanding connotations of words can help you figure out how the word fits in the passage. Connotation means identifying if the word has a positive or negative meaning. So sometimes you just need to simply ask yourself, does that word sound positive or negative? You may not need to know the exact definition, but if you can tell the connotation of the word, you may not need to know the literal meaning. So here's our example. The girl was disliked immediately since she came off as haughty. So haughty, is that positive or negative? Well, we look at the sentence. We have disliked, so haughty has a negative connotation. And haughty means stuck up or snotty. And nobody likes a stuck up or snotty kind of person. Understanding parts of speech will also help in figuring out unknown words. If it's a noun, verb, adjective, or adverb, it can help you better understand the purpose in the passage. So our example here, the stuntman fell off the motorbike and broke his pelvis. Pelvis, is that a person, place, or thing? It's a thing. His pelvis, he owns it, so it's the thing. So therefore, pelvis is a noun, and pelvis is part of your body. Think about touching Spirit Bear. Cole's pelvis was broken by the Spirit Bear when he mauled them. He broke his hip area. Synonyms and antonyms are also ways to figure out word meanings. Remember, synonyms are words with almost the same meaning, and antonyms are words that mean the opposite. So if we take a look at this example, reducing cholesterol has a number of beneficial results. One positive outcome is reducing the risk of heart disease. That's a synonym clue. Beneficial means positive. Beneficial is something that's good for you. Our next one, I despise liver, but I adore steak. The but tells you that it's going to be the opposite of adore. So if adore means you like it, despise means you hate it. Now we're going to go through some practice activities. See if you can figure out what the underlying word means using the context clues. What I'd like you to do now is to draw a line underneath the 5 practice ones from earlier and write practice 1 down on your paper underneath where you did the other practice sentences. And this is going to count as your daily work for today. Write down the letter and the answer choice and the word answer from what you choose. So here's your passage. I have always lived in cubby holes. After moving away from my home, my first apartment was just a cubby hole in a large building. It was no more than 8 by 12 feet and had a bed in one corner. My second was no more than a large walk-in closet. My current one is about 10 feet long by 12 feet wide, but it at least has 2 rooms. What do you think are possible answers for cubbyhole? A, small space, B, large space, or C, home? So you should write down on your paper, practice 1, cubbyhole equals A, write down small space, B, write down large space, C, write down home next to the word cubbyhole. Practice number 2. The floors of the restaurant were extremely scuzzy. They were covered with spilled grease, crumbs of food, and cigarette butts. Possible answers. So write down the word scuzzy. Does scuzzy mean A, clean, B, dirty, or C, straight? Write down the word scuzzy and the word that you think it means. Clean, dirty, straight. Practice number 3. The contractor was always well remunerated for his work. For example, he received $10,000 for a small addition to a house, and last year he received $5,000 for reconstructing a stairway. Remunerated. Write that down for number 3. Remunerated. Does remunerated mean A, valued, B, given, or C, paid? Practice number 4. The department store carries a variety of breeches. For example, they carried Levi's, Wranglers, and even some plain unlabeled brands made of cotton. So breeches. What does breeches mean? A, clothes, B, pants, C, socks. Practice number 5. Josie received a bauble for a present from her great aunt. This she put with her others, a pair of imitation earrings, a fake emerald pendant, and a ring that looked like a ruby. Bauble. What does bauble possibly mean? A, rings, B, fancy eats, or C, jewelry? Practice number 6. Although the silverback is powerful, he has a placid nature. He leads his family to food, plays patiently with his youngsters, and rarely fights. Placid. What do you think placid might mean? A, peaceful, B, crazy, C, hyper. Now, we're going to add a little more to this. So, what type of context clue did you use to figure this out? What helped you to understand what placid meant? Was a clue right after, right before the word? Was it in the sentence before it, the sentence after it? Was there an antonym or a synonym? Was it punctuation clues? All right, here's the next one. Totem poles made from cedar wood could stand for about 50 years before they deteriorated from wood decay and fell to the ground. What do you think deteriorated means? A, built, B, honored, or C, worn down? What type of context clue did you use for deteriorated? Make sure to write that down as well. What helped you to figure out what deteriorated means? All right, here's some more. One of the family's most precious traditions was to sing Christmas carols and gather together to reminisce about Christmases past. Stories were told, laughter was abundant, and memories were shared by young and old alike. Reminisce. What do you think reminisce means? A, play. B, remember. C, admire. Don't forget to explain what type of context clue you used. What helped you figure out what reminisce meant? All right, keep it coming. When Josie was a little girl, she went to a birthday party where a clown was performing. The clown really scared her. Ever since then, Josie has had an aversion to clowns. She can't stand to be around one. It makes her sick. So what do you think aversion means? A, attraction. B, wish. Or C, dislike. Once again, tell me what type of context clue did you use to figure out aversion? Few more. The ancient Roman baths could be a very boisterous place. Visitors liked to sing and whistle and shout to their friends. Added to this was the loud calls of food vendors and hair pluckers looking for customers. Boisterous. What do you think boisterous might mean? A, very loud. B, dirty. Or C, sleepy. And then once again, explain what type of context clue you used. How'd you figure out boisterous? What were the clues? All right, we're almost there. When visiting a sauna, people may recline or lean on a bench while sitting in the hot, steamy room, letting their toxins sweat out. What do you think recline means? You might have a recliner in your house, and this is why it's called a recliner. Does recline mean to twirl, to lean, or to explain? What type of context clue did you use to figure out recline? All right, here's the last one. Make it count. Harry Houdini, a world-famous magician, led a 10,000-pound elephant into a cabinet on stage. He pulled a curtain over the cabinet. Seconds later, he whipped open the curtain and the elephant was gone. The theater resounded with the audience cheers and applause. What do you think resounded means? A, appeared. B, echoed. Or C, surprised. Then let me know what type of context clue you used to figure out resounded. Now that you're done, make sure your name is on your sheet and turn it into the green box up by the door in Mrs. Schultz's room. This is your exit slip for the day. Now, go read some myths.